Hello and great to see you all attending another Oxygen XML live experience. My name is Zalim Belu and I will be your host for today's live event, Engage Everyone in the Technical Documentation Process webinar. Because we at Oxygen XML strongly think that anyone can contribute to the technical documentation with proper collaboration tools, I invited today my colleague Bogdan Dumitru, software developer at Syncrosoft, the company that produces the Oxygen suite of products. So he will show you how Oxygen Content Fusion is a platform for all, not just for technical writers. You will see firsthand how it can positively impact the activity of each person involved in the technical documentation process, from technical writers to subject matter experts and also users. Along with the multiple use cases, this live event will also highlight the DITA-specific features, as well as some of the new additions brought to the upcoming Content Fusion 4, in particular the concurrent editing support that we all have been waiting for. Now, before Bogdan takes the floor, let me give you some useful information about today's webinar. As always, all of our events are being recorded, so today's event makes no difference. After the webinar comes to an end, the recording will be made available on the event page on our site oxygenxml.com, along with the slides and samples of Bogdan's presentation, and also the recording will be uploaded on our YouTube channel titled Oxygen XML. Another important aspect is that as we go along, we encourage you to ask us questions by using the questions panel from the GoToWebinar interface, and we will try to answer your questions in real time. Now, with all of this being said, let me welcome Bogdan Dumitru. Hi, Bogdan.
Hi everyone, and thank you Alin for the great introduction. I'm Bogdan, a software developer involved in the Content Fusion web author products. Let's take a look over today's agenda. I'll start by presenting an overview of Content Fusion. You'll see what it is and how it looks like. Then I'll dive into the perspectives of technical documentation. I'll show you what are the benefits offered by Content Fusion to each agent involved in the technical documentation. After that, we'll discuss about a feature presented in the next version of Content Fusion that will be released soon, concurrent editing. Last but not least, you'll see how easy it is to take a trial on Amazon Web Services, a web service that offers hosting solutions. What is Content Fusion? It is a web collaboration solution for any XML documentation review workflow. With other words, it is a web application where users can collaborate on writing and reviewing documents. Why did we feel the need for such a tool? What is the motivation behind Content Fusion? First, it appeared as an internal need inside our company for a facile way of collaboration between technical writers and developers. Initially, the way technical writers communicate with developers were via emails. For example, when the technical writer needed a review for a topic he had just finished, it sent the data topic, an XML document, to the subject matter expert. The subject matter expert had to know how to open the document, but it lacked the topic context, and it had to know about the XML syntax in order to actually be able to write something. When sending the document back, the technical writer had to manually do a diff to identify what were the changes that the subject matter expert do to the initial version of the file. Well, this way of collaboration is pretty time-consuming and it disrupts both parties. With a primitive way of collaboration in mind, let's see how Content Fusion solves it. First of all, Content Fusion is a web application, so let's take a look. Here is the main page with all reviewed tasks assigned and owned by me. A task consists of a set of files that I send or assign colleagues to for review or co-authoring purposes. As you can see, the tasks that I had to review are separated from the ones that I created. The task page presents the files and activity along, as you can see right now. Here's a page of a particular task. In the first section, you can see the controls of the task. You have a settings section when you can control some stuff or some options of the task, like the option to enforce change tracking to each file. If you enable this feature, each edit made to a file within this task will be recorded and you will see it in a side panel. After, you have the share button that you can use to share the task with your colleagues. And if I click it, a small dialog appears. You can opt to share the task via a link, or you can have the task private and specifically assign your colleagues via their email. Okay, next. Here you can see the task files. Those are the files for review. And if you assign a reviewer, he or she had to open each file to read the content and to make small corrections or add new content to each file. So let's open a file. Now you can see the actual editor. The editor is actually another product of our company, is Oxygen XML Web Author. Here you can expand the side panel and you will see all the changes made by reviewers. And you also can accept them or reject them. The activity of a task um, can be inspected in the task activities section in the left side. Here you can see if someone adds a file to the task or if someone changes something in the task. After each file change activity, you can have a diff link that if you open, you'll see what was changed. Also, you can see in the activity section the finalized review markers, because a reviewer can mark when he or she finished the review. Okay, Now, let's switch focus to the technical documentation. We consider it to be a process in which three agents stand out: the technical writer, the subject matter experts, that can be, let's say, a developer, and the audience, that can be the end user or the quality assurance team or another team. Let's get into technical writer's shoes and see what Content Fusion can do for him. He manages the documentation and is the main responsible for the information that the user gets. He has rules to obey. He speaks in a certain tones and reuses content as much as possible. So, because of that, he keeps the documentation project private to devs, preventing them from messing around with it. For example, he speaks in the second person and doesn't want developers to come and write things in third person. A technical writer most likely uses Oxygen XML editor when have to write documents because it gives full control over the documents. Content Fusion connects with Oxygen XML editor or author via a plugin that allows technical writers to create tasks right from their favorite editor. Let me show you. Now I switch to Oxygen XML editor. Here you can see on the main toolbar the Oxygen Content Fusion connector button. When opened, it asks to be installed because I haven't installed it yet. Now let's click install. Wait a few seconds to refresh. And hit that done import. Oops, let me try again. Hit install. Okay, sorry. Now I have to click next. But before this, I want only to install the latest version of the add-on. So I check this option. Now I have to click next. It asks me if it's all right to connect to oxygenxml.com. Allow and remember. Now I have to accept the terms and the license and click install. And the final step is to restart the application. Now I have to enter the Content Fusion server address. In my case, it is fusion.sync.row. Next, I have to authorize the application in browser. just click Authorize. Now you can see in the Concurrent Tasks Manager connector, this view on the right side. First of all, you see a dotted rectangle. Here you can drag files to create a task, or you can click the Choose button to invoke the file browser. Below that, you will see all the tasks that you own. And on each task, you have a few buttons. For example, you have the Delete Tasks button. But if I go here, I see another button, Get Changes. If I click it, all the changes made to the tasks files on the server by the reviewers will be integrated in the local files. You also have a contextual menu with a few actions. You can open the task in browser, you can copy the task link, delete task, and refresh it. Okay, now let's create a task for review. You have many ways to do that. One of my favorite way is from the contextual menu from the Data Maps Manager via the Add to Review Task action. Now I have to choose the task title. Let's say inserting the SIM card. As you can see, it automatically detects the data map and it will be uploaded to the server. Now hit upload, and now I have to choose a reviewer for it. By clicking the task title, the browser appears with the task opened. Now I click share, and I will choose to write the email of the reviewer. And click add, and done. Because Content Fusion notifies Mihaela on her email, and because it is such an easy tool to use for subject matter experts, Mihaela always reviews the task in a blink of an eye. You can see her in action right now, right from the browser. Here you can see the people that are accessing a file in real time. And below, you can see the activity on this task. Oh, Mihaela just finished reviewing the document that I just sent to her. Let's see what she changed. Now let's click on the diff link. Okay, so those were the only changes. Everything looks fine. Now let's get changes back in Oxygen and commit them. For this, I go back to Oxygen and I click on the Get Changes button, this one. And a dialog appears. Here I can see again a div with the changes before integrating them. And if I click apply, the local file updates. Okay. So to sum things up, Technical Writer will get an easy way to send documents to review and will receive the review much faster. Now, let's study the subject matter expert's perspective. Their focus is the actual product development. All he wants to do is to quickly send his thoughts to a technical writer without having to know XML. He also often doesn't have access to the documentation source code. For this, he just opens Content Fusion, creates a new task, chooses a file type, and then writes the topic in the friendly "what you see is what you get" editor. After writing, it assigns a technical writer that will review and integrate it into the main documentation project. Let's do a demo. I open Content Fusion in browser, create a new task from this button. Let's give it a name. Let's say draft and today's date. And I will create a file from the new file button. I have to choose the type of the file, and I will choose the data topic. Enter a title and hit OK. Now let's write something. I can even create a table from this toolbar button. I can even copy content from another page, let's say an HTML page like this. And Content Fusion, it will know how to transform the HTML syntax in XML syntax. So it is very easy for a subject matter expert to write a draft, for example. And the last step will be to share it with an technical writer that will have to integrate it into the documentation main project. Okay. So subject matter experts get an editor that it is really easy to use. Next. The last perspectives that I want to analyze is the user or audience perspective. Let's call it the user perspective. Users get the output usually as a web page, but sometimes they can notice small mistakes in the documentation. When this happens, many of them will just get over and won't take action by writing an email because that will cost too much time. Content Fusion solves this and encourages users to contribute to the documentation by publishing manuals with edit links. And let me show you. This is a published manual, and here you can see an edit link. And if I click it, the Content Fusion will be opened. And because I'm already logged in, I simply choose I simply write the small correction or the small addition that I just wanted to add to the documentation. Or if is nothing wrong with a spelling or something like this, I can add a message and who wrote the topic can answer me. Okay, now let's move on. But before, I would want to mention that another way that you can keep the audience connected with the documentation is by using Oxygen XML feedback. This is another product of our company that embeds a feedback form below each topic. Now let's move on to a feature that will be released in the next version of Content Fusion, concurrent editing. It is a highly requested feature that we are really proud of. It enhances the collaboration capabilities of Content Fusion. Concurrently editing a file with a colleague is even better than having it right on your desk because both of you can write at the same time. What's great about it is that it comes with no restrictions. You can co-write with as many colleagues as you have, no delay, no lock, no restrictions. Each user is free to do anything he wants anywhere in the documentation. It can add or remove XML structure. To see it in action, I have a task already prepared. Oops, sorry. Um, to see it in action, I have a task already prepared and I've already invited my colleagues to review it. What was the name? Oh, this is about Gardenia, and you can see that I already invited my colleagues, Mihaela and Mihai, and when they open a file, their name will be presented next to it. Oh, both enter Gardenia DITA. Great. Now you can see the caret of each user. And Mihaela just started typing something. Mihai could also write in the same word as Mihaela is writing right now and correct her mistakes. You can see each caret of each user present that is active in the concurrent session. Also, you can see the selection of each user. And you also can edit the XML structure. You can add elements like a new paragraph here. Okay. And I will want to mention that almost or maybe every feature of the regular editor is or can be used in the concurrent session. And you also can use all the actions from the toolbar or the contextual menu actions. You can also add comments, review comments. Mihaela and Mihai also can reply to my comment. Here you can see all the comments. Okay, let's move on. And let's talk about version history, because this feature, concurrent editing, blends well with version history, because each new version of a saved file contains edits just from a single user, even if they edit the document simultaneously. And you can see the importance of it, because you can precisely identify who writes what in the document. And if I go here in the activity section and click a diff link, I can know for sure that only Mihaela's changes are presented. By the way, note that the owner of a task can download the task files as a Git repository too, from the download button that is right here. And it can use the Git repository locally by opening it in his favorite Git client like Source3 or even Oxygen XML editor or author with the Oxygen Git client plugin. You can also deactivate the concurrent editing if you want to be the only person that edit a file in a particular time. This can be done from task settings from here. As you can see, now the concurrent editing is enabled. Okay, so we talk about file history, and next, I hope that you liked what you just saw and you are eager to take a trial. We offer two ways for it: a public evaluation server hosted by us. This link, fusion.oxygenxml.com/evaluate. The downside is that it's not very flexible. You cannot access the configuration page. You cannot upload a framework or a plugin. The second approach is via a private server, either an in-house server or on or by using the AWS launch button that we offer. You can use it to host a web application, a server-side content fusion on AWS without too much trouble. You only have to follow a few steps. As an advantage for the second approach with a private server, I want to mention that that you can sorry I want to say that you can try it much faster than having to set up your own server in house. It is very convenient because you'll won't bother with too many technical knowledge, and it's flexible. What I mean by that is that you can add your own frameworks and plugins, because WebAuthor supports various plugins that can be added to enhance the editing capabilities. The last advantage on this way is that it doesn't require technical knowledge, so you don't need a system administrator for it. And there are only 4 steps. Those 4. Sounds great? Now, let's do a demo for it. First, I have to open the download section from the Content Fusion page. So I go back to the browser and I'll open oxygenxml.com, products, Oxygen Content Fusion, and the download section. And here is the AWS stub. And here is the before mentioned launch button. If I click it, we'll open the AWS page. I already have an account, and now the only thing I have to do is choose a key, either an existing one or a new one. The key is needed if you have to access the server via command line, but most probably you won't have to. If you don't have a key, just open the link above the text field, this one, and click on Create Key Pair. Give it a name like Content Fusion Key. You have to choose the file format and create key. But store it somewhere safe. Now, back here, I choose the key and create stack. Oops, I already have a server with this name and I have to give it a new name. Let's say Content Fusion Enterprise 2021. Now we have to wait for the server to be loaded. This may take a few minutes. When it finishes, it should present the complete status, like here, but it should be here. After it completes, we will have to find the IP address of the new content fusion server. Now it's complete. Okay, to find the IP of the server, we have to go to the resources tab from here and click on the first physical ID, this one. The IP is under the public IPv4. Copy it and let's open. Let's type HTTP. Maybe it wasn't started yet. But we have one last step to do. We have to configure the license. For this, we have to access the administration page. For this, we have to write HTTPS and the port for the configuration page, this one, and hit enter. Mm. Mm. Hmm. I think it should be started by now, but like in every live presentation, something goes wrong.
Status says initializing.
Oh yeah. This is the status check, so we have to wait it for a bit longer.
But if you already have a similar installation that you created earlier that's already initialized, I don't know.
Oh, now it's done. I think it finally completed the initialization process. Okay, so let's go back to activate the license. We have to open the configuration page that it is at this port. Click advanced, proceed, and we'll have to enter the user and password that can be found in the documentation here. Wait a second. The procedure can be found here. And you will see the user and password and many other steps for it. Oh, the first time you enter the configuration page, you have to enter the user fusion and this password. Okay, now let's go back. Then I have to enter a new password. And now I have to request a trial license if I don't have already a license key. Fill my name, my email, my name, and start trial. Now the server is fully activated. Let's go to the actual Content Fusion server that users will use. Voila. You now have your own Content Fusion server on AWS. About the configuration page, here you can also access the web author admin page where you can add new plugins or frameworks like I just mentioned before. Okay, I think that was all. Thank you everyone for listening. And Aline, back to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Bogdan, for this great introduction into Content Fusion and for the quick sneak peek into the concurrent editing feature that can be found in the upcoming version of Content Fusion, version 4. Now, a big thank you to all of the people that are attending our event and that asked questions during Bogdan's presentation. So me and Bogdan will go through them right now and try to offer you some answers. Bogdan, are you ready?
Yeah.
You are very self-assured. Okay. Let's
I don't see the questions. Are just
we'll see the people that assisted us in answering them, in answering some of the questions in real time. Maybe they will jump in. Now,
okay.
the first question: can the XML data or text documentation on the server be operated in a Git repository?
Well, Content Fusion stores the documentation internally as a Git repository. The repository can be downloaded from the web user interface. Also, if your documentation is stored in a Git repository, you can upload files from your local clone to the Content Fusion server. It is that kind of integration that integration with Git, or you had something different or the person had something different in mind. I can show how to download the Git repository, maybe.
Sure.
So from here, from this button, download. And you can see if I save it on desktop in 1 second. And if I open it, you can see that Git directory that corresponds to a Git repository.
Mhm.
May I
That's it.
barge in for a moment?
Yeah.
Sure,
Sorry,
George.
I'm George Bina. So another thing that we take into account is for the future in our content fusion is to allow creating a task directly from a Git repository by browsing, for instance, for let's say if you use GitHub, we can provide a browse action to select a project, a branch, and then the set of files. And then we will be able to create the task from that content. And then the integration part may be, for example, a pull request sent to that repository, to that branch that was used to create the review task. That's, let's say, another way that we are considering to integrate Fusion with Git.
Thank you. Thank you, George. Okay, let's go to the second question. Is it possible to assert a review task to a group of people?
Yes, you can assign a task to any number of reviewers using the shared dialog. Like this. You click on the share dialog and you have to enter the email of each person, or you can copy the link of the task, and you maybe send the link to the group via the email or via an internal application.
Okay. Now, another audience member asked the following. What are the review possibilities when markdown files are used instead of DITA topics?
What are the review? I think we don't have in the browser many review capabilities, but you can edit markdown documents in Content Fusion. You don't have all the features we offer for the XML, but when you integrate a markdown back in Oxygen with a Get Changes button, you can do a diff.
Perfect. Again, we have appraisals for you, Bogdan. Excellent presentation from one of our audience members. Can you please tell us how is Content Fusion different from WebAuthor? If you have Content Fusion, is there any need to have a WebAuthor or vice versa?
Well, WebAuthor have to be connected to a CMS. WebAuthor doesn't have a file storage, for example. You have to connect it to a Git repository, let's say. On the other hand, Content Fusion comes with a few other features focused on collaboration, such as Content Fusion send emails to reviewers when they are assigned to a task. It stores the tasks on the server. So both of them are for collaboration, but WebAuthor is more a tool that can be tailored for your needs.
Thank you, Bogdan.
May I step in?
Yes, sure, Mihai.
The main difference between these two products is that they cover somewhere different scenarios. WebAuthor is meant to directly edit documents stored on various CMSs, Git, CMIS, and so on, where Content Fusion tries to take the subject matter expert into account and allow them to contribute to share their knowledge in the documentation. You create a task from the Oxygen editor, you share them with these with them, and they can on point offer their insights so you can create a good documentation for a product. But they don't have to know the entire content stored on the CMS, the entire project, and so on.
Thank you. Thank you, Mihai, for your input. We have, let's take a last question. We just received it. How is the reuse content in a file handled? Is the reviewer not able to edit or comment on reuse content?
Well, when you upload a task with a file that have a content, a reference to another file, both files are uploaded, but only the first file is presented in the tasks files. Of course, when the reviewer opens the file, it will see the content reference too. So you'll see the full context, and if it can even edit the referenced file. But I can show you an example for it. Might be a great idea.
Sure.
You can see this file that have this section that has a gray background. It is a content reference in DITA. And I create a task with only the insert sim data. When I open the task in browser, I can see what was saw in the Oxygen XML editor. And to edit the reference, you have to right-click on the content and click on Edit Reference. Or to click here. And the content viewer notifies you that that is a reference content, is not the main file for review. But you can click on Start Editing and you can edit the file actually.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Bogdan. Thank you for answering our audience's questions, and thank you all for showing your involvement with your questions. Now let me take back control.
There is just one additional question.
Yes,
that
sure.
To Content Fusion and GitHub replaces the need for purchasing a CCMS component content management system. That's another question. And I think it depends on your needs. For instance, in our case, we are using GitHub for our technical documentation for the Oxygen user guide, for instance, and also Content Fusion and Web Author for reviewing content and allowing developers to interact with the content, also for review purposes, and sometimes also for creating initial content. So yeah, but depends on the needs, I guess, and the workflows you are. I guess it, as with any question, depends on the requirements, on the specific requirements that you have.
Thank you, George. Thank you for catching this last question. Okay, for the additional comments and questions regarding Bogdan's presentation, I dearly refer you to the event page where you have here the Oxygen feedback commenting platform that is easy to use, and you can ask your questions here. And let me remind you that the event is being recorded, and you will find the recording along with Bogdan's sample files and slides on this event page. Now, let me tell you a little bit about our upcoming events. In the weeks to come, we prepared for all of you the following webinars. Next Wednesday, we have the Working with DITA in Oxygen Advanced Profiling and Reuse Strategies webinar. And in this third webinar about working with DITA in Oxygen, we will help you achieve the desire of becoming advanced in profiling and reusing DITA content. And also on February 10, we will have the second part of transforming XML and HTML documents to PDF called lists, tables, and images. And if you watched our previous webinar on CSS customization and you want to continue your journey into defining the look and format of your documents, here is the a long-awaited second part. And in this webinar, you will learn some more advanced CSS properties, and you will apply them on more complex elements such as lists, tables, and images. And with this being said, make sure to check our events page where you can also find the link to register to all of these webinars for free. Now, reaching the end of this present event, let me thank Bogdan again for his great presentation and introduction into Content Fusion.
Thank you to everyone.
And also let me thank Christian, George, Mihaela, and Mihai for answering your questions in real time and assisting us. And of course, as always, a big thank you to everyone for joining us again this week. And until next time, stay safe and have a nice day or evening. Bye-bye.